Hello and welcome back, everybody. We have another podcast ready to go for you today. I am Nick Bate. I am joined today by Brian Ramos and Rob Schlosser, and we are here getting ready for the start of the MLB season. We're talking opening day coming. We're giving you previews of each division, what you can expect to come. We're giving you our way far out. We're giving you our preseason predictions for a World Series matchup, and we're giving you our preseason predictions of MVP and Cy Young Award winners. So without any further ado, I think we should jump right into it. We're going to be starting today with the AL West. We're going to be breaking down the AL West. We'll go in depth here on the AL West first. Either of you guys want to start this off?
I'll start it off. So for the AL West, I think the division winner is going to be the Houston Astros. They still got Carlos Correa and Alex Bregman, both good players.
Mm-hmm.
And they have good around pitching. Second place, I'm probably going to put the Oakland Athletics. They're a young, gritty team. They had some great players in Matt Chapman, Matt Olson. Third, I'll probably put the Los Angeles Angels. They have Shohei Ohtani, they have Trout, the best player in baseball. They upgraded and got Anthony Rendon. So I feel like they won't be a playoff team yet, but they're going in the right direction. Fourth, I got the Seattle Mariners, and then fifth, I have the Texas Rangers. Last place in the AL West.
My biggest thing with the AL West is the Astros continue to be there, and it's so hard to kind of gauge them at this point, from the sign stealing scandal. Now we're going to get our first full season without them there. So they're the hardest team for me to gauge at this point with where they're at and what they're going to be. I think they are probably going to be a little worse than last year. George Springer's gone now. I still don't know what Justin Verlander is going to be like coming back from that injury. So I think there's still a lot of question marks with this team. And for me, it's like the Athletics have been there year in and year out for an extended period of time now, to the point where I think that just the fact that they're so driven by analytics are proven to win in the regular season. And that's what I think is ultimately going to come down. I like the Athletics. I think I'm hoping Sean Manaea can bounce back. He had a rough stretch last year, that 60-game season. So that's really what I'm looking for with the Athletics. I think they have the good enough roster to get it done. I have them winning the division.
Yeah, I have that too, Nick. I have the Athletics winning the division. And I also think it's going to be a toss-up between the Angels and the Astros. The Angels.
Do you think it's still going to be close?
Yeah. I mean, the Astros, great team. Well, at least their rotation's a little shaky, but their lineup is very solid. They're going to get runs across the board. Angels, they've been building their team up over the last few seasons. If Dylan Bundy can do what he did last year, I mean,
big
who knows?
question mark.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even the Mariners had some bright spots last year. I don't know if it's enough to be in the same rankings as the Astros and the Angels. But yeah, I have it Athletics, probably Athletics, Astros, Angels, Mariners, and then Rangers. Rangers is not really a toss-up in my mind. They didn't make too many moves. They got rid of Elvis Andrus. They really just have Joey Gallo, a couple of guys. But
I'm glad you brought up the Mariners because last season I think they were a little better than people expected. But the fact that they just have so much young talent, it's something where I think they're going to be better than people are expecting. I love the fact they brought back James Paxton because I think when he's healthy, I think he has the potential to be a great number two at the very least on any team. A couple years ago in his career, before he came to the Yankees, he was the ace of that Mariners staff in his first stint there. So, I love what the Mariners are building, and I think they're going to be a team that's kind of sneaky, in the wild card hunt for a good period of the season. I think, they're ultimately going to miss the playoffs, especially if it sticks to the 5-team per league format as it's currently constructed, not the expanded 8-team format. But, I definitely like the Mariners, and I think that they're going to be better than people are expecting.
Yeah, I like that. I like that Paxton deal as well. They also brought in, I think he's from Japan, Kikuchi. They signed him to a decent deal. I mean, if he's solid, he's going to be third in the rotation behind Marco Gonzalez and James Paxton. Pretty solid three. I don't know the last two guys, but they are up and coming, so there's potential. Their outfield, I mean, in my opinion, you have Trammell, Lewis, and Haniger, all solid players. Haniger keeps proving himself every single season. And they also have J.P. Crawford, who has been proving himself. I think he was batting over 300 last season at shortstop. Good leadoff guy. But yeah, very young team.
Yeah.
Lots of potential.
A lot of young potential. Ramos, anything to add before we move to the AL Central?
I mean, I also like the Paxton deal. I think it was good because he gets to come back to Seattle where he kind of started his career, and his time with the Yankees. Some people there's always the budding joke of some people just can't pitch in New York, and I think he'll be one of those underrated players that just does better in a small market. So I think Paxton will do good for Seattle.
Real quick, I wanna move on to the Central, but real quick, you piqued my attention there, man. I'm sorry, I can't leave it on because I get that comparison. You can talk about it with a guy like Sonny Gray, but James Paxton, I just feel more for him. It was just he was so injured all the time, and if he was healthy, there was games when he pitched in New York where he was just magnificent. And I mean, he did have some good playoff teams as well. I don't know if it was the New York spotlight as much as it was just injuries that derailed.
Oh, I think it was more injuries. Yeah,
but. I get what you're saying, and hopefully in a small market where the pressure isn't on him. When the Yankees brought him in, they gave up a lot. But now it's he's kind of almost starting from scratch on what kind of a pitcher he's going to be. Is he going to be a top tier pitcher again, or is he going to kind of be at this point going forward? So with that being said, I think we should move on to the AL Central here. Rob, you want to start us off?
AL Central. Okay. This is an interesting one. I definitely think so. But I don't consider the Indians, the Royals, or the Tigers as contenders in this division. It's going to be between the White Sox and the Twins. I have to pick the White Sox. They were extremely dominant last year. I mean, Twins won the division, but in my mind, the White Sox deserved it. A lot of young talent. Giolito came out. Their bullpen was astonishing. I have to pick them. Twins have a ton of talent. Josh Donaldson, Barrios, ton of guys. They're going to clinch second. I have no idea for third. Indians gave up basically everything that made them decent last year. So I might even move the Royals. Yeah, I'm going to put Royals third, Indians, and then Tigers. So that's my prediction.
Ramos?
I agree with you of the top two. I think the Chicago White Sox are going to be first. I think they're probably the second best team in the American League. They're going to be close to 100 wins next year. They got Tony La Russa back. They have a very talented young core. Jose Abreu taking strong leap in his game, and then second, I think it's going to be Minnesota, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. They got Nelson Cruz back, which is huge for them. Third, I think is going to be Cleveland. I think even though they lost a lot of guys, like Rob said, they still have some sort of they still have some. I still think they're better than Kansas City and Detroit. Fourth, I have Kansas City. They made a nice acquisition in the offseason, picking up Andrew Benintendi from the Red Sox, but I still think they're not there yet to compete. But they also have good pitching in Brady Singer. And then fifth, I have Detroit. They're just pretty one of the worst teams in baseball. So I have them last.
I'm kind of with you guys. I think outside of the Twins and White Sox, there's a lot to talk about. I think at the end of the day, if I was to predict the playoffs, even in a 5-team format, not the expanded form, I'd have both of these teams in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. For me, it's kind of a toss-up, and the fact that the White Sox are getting all the attention, that just makes me personally want to pick the Twins to win the division. But like you guys have mentioned, I don't have anything to add. That White Sox roster is loaded. There's so much talent that's just getting better and better each year. Nick Madrigal, we're going to see what he's got in a full season here. Yoan Moncada's still there, the reigning MVP Jose Abreu. So I don't have much to add. So I can echo that, but I'm going to pick Minnesota just because I think they're getting slept on a little bit in that division, and I think they've got a great top of their rotation, led by Kent Maeda and Jose Barrios. So that being said, we can move on to the AL East now, and I know Ramos and myself, we both have some interest in this division, both being Yankees fans and all. So I'll start it off here, and obviously me being a Yankees boy, and the fact that they're a good team, frankly, it's not like there's any bias or anything. I am going to pick them to win this division. There's still some question marks, and I think the Twins are good. I think the Rays are still good. I think the Blue Jays improved a lot, but I'm going with the Yankees here. What are your guys' thoughts on the division? I feel like there's a lot that we could dive into here.
I'll let Ramos go. I need to think about this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as a fellow Yankee fan, like, it's not even biased. Like, I just think that they're the best team in the AL East. They're probably going to be the one of the best teams in the American League. And the Yankees picked up a few notable guys like Jay Bruce, a lefty bat. They brought back Brett Gardner, picked up some pitching, Corey Kluber and Jameson Taillon from the Pirates. They also added Darren O'Day, a nice bullpen arm. So I'm liking where the AL East is looking. But yeah, I'll let Rob go.
Rob, I also got to apologize real quick. When I said there's some rooting interest here, I mentioned the Yankees with Ramos and I, but obviously Rob being the Red Sox fan group here also got some interest. Maybe not as relevant this year.
It's fine. I mean, last year we finished behind the Orioles, so I can't really say much. No, but this division, it's got to be between the Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays. I think the Red Sox are going to play well, but they're still going to take that fourth spot, potentially third, but that's just me being hopeful. I have Yankees at first. I think that the Rays and Blue Jays is going to be very close. Blue Jays made some amazing acquisitions over the break, and Rays lost a lot of pitching. I think they're going to struggle a little bit. I know they depend a lot on their pitching, a lot on their bullpen, the 2 to 3 innings per pitcher, which is, different than a lot of other teams. And I think that's one reason why they were so successful last year. They were able to pitch certain guys every other day, which is very important, especially when you see that the other team is struggling against them. So I think I'm going to put Yankees, Rays, Blue Jays, Red Sox, O's.
So you really think the Rays took that much of a step back? Because I feel like that's what's kind of going to be the huge question here. Because as much as the Rays maybe took a step back, I feel like I'm happy, I'm confident in what the Yankees have put forth to potentially be their starting rotation this year. But to say that it's better than the Rays at this point, I don't know if I could fully go to that extent, just because of the fact that the Rays don't really use a typical rotation.
Yeah.
They can get away with only having 2 or 3 maximum true starting pitchers. They can get away with that. So that's where I wonder, the Rays, who another very analytically driven team,
mm-hmm.
I think that they're still going to find ways to just get it done in the regular season, no problem, even if that doesn't necessarily translate to postseason success, just from using their opener format, just from they still have Tyler Glass now there, and I think it's just one of those things where they have great pitching coaches as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're going to find guys who can slot in, and they're going to find success by just frankly using that opener format and relying on their bullpen.
That would not surprise me at all if the Rays were able to take this division once again. In my mind, there is a lot of question marks in this Yankees rotation. Of course, you got Garrett Cole. That's a check mark. Taillon, I believe in him. I think he's going to be a very solid starter for you guys. He's going to be middle of the rotation. But, Kluber, he's my question mark. If he comes out and performs like the Kluber of 2015, that's a totally different story. You got Montgomery and Herman. Also solid starters, but nothing extremely special. A lot of question marks.
Here's my thing with the Yankees rotation, because I agree with you. There's a lot of question marks. And Ramos, let me know if I'm just being like a biased Yankees guy or anything like that. But prior to spring training, with what Brian Cashman was dealt, Hal Simon basically telling him, don't go over the salary cap. This is what you can do. Make it happen. I don't know if there's a better outcome here. I mean, yes, he could have traded a lot of pieces to potentially bring in Luis Castillo, but that's not really Brian Cashman's MO as a GM. So to be able to bring in, this set of relievers, we don't need the Yankees to have their 5th starter be a Cy Young Award winner. The Yankees at this point have fallen short because outside, you look last year, outside of Garrett Cole, no starter performed in the postseason. Not even Masahiro Tanaka, who they let go. So if we can have, there's 5 guys set in their rotation right now, plus Deivi Garcia in the minor league, plus Luis Severino when he gets back from injury, plus, Clark Schmidt, another young prospect. He's currently injured right now, but he'll be back midseason. So you tell me all these guys behind you, I don't care what they do in the regular season. Frankly, I don't care what 7 of these guys do. If we can have Garrett Cole and 2 other guys behind him be solid to performing very well come postseason time, I'm perfectly happy with that, because that was not good enough come last postseason. They did not have that level last postseason. It was below that level when they faced the Rays in last season's ALDS. So that's frankly the level that it needs to be at. I don't care if it's Tyone. I don't care if it's Kluber. I don't care if it's Herman. I don't care if it's Montgomery. I don't care if it's any of these guys. I don't care if it's Deivi Garcia. If 2 of them are pitching better than solid, better than okay, if they're pitching well, I'm fine with that come postseason time.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, like, when the Kluber deal was announced, like, I was fine with that. I thought it was a low risk, high reward signing. And right now, I mean, it's only spring training, and like some of the guys he's pitched against aren't even in the MLB, but he's looked good. And I think, like Nick, like you agree, like Cashman pretty much turned what people thought nothing into something that could be a potentially solid rotation. And so, yeah, I think I think the Yankees are going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and I mean, just to echo that high risk, high reward, I mean, we could even talk about Tyone, a guy who was a great starter a couple of years ago. He's had injury issues, but, you look at what they gave up to get him. It was nothing. It was prospects that weren't even ranked in their top. I think they had 1 prospect they gave up that was ranked in their top 20. So, I mean, it's you're not giving up a lot. And like I said, you only need a couple of these guys to be pitching well come postseason time. You don't need all six or 7 of them to be pitching well come postseason.
Yeah, and
then the way I see it is that this lineup that I have in front of me is going to put up 4, 5 or more runs in a game. So if you can come out and throw an average game as a pitcher, you're going to set your team up to win. That's the way I see it. And I think that Severino, once he comes back, he's going to have a big impact. I know I used to, as a Red Sox fan, I used to hate watching him pitch because he showed that he has a lot of skill. And
even if he has to come out of the bullpen, he
exactly.
Can be a serious weapon.
He could be deadly
once he gets back healthy.
And I mean, you did give up Ottavino, but this bullpen is still very solid. You got, Darren O'Day and his funky delivery. There's a lot of things to be proud of here.
Now, Nick, I want to bring up something to you real quick since you mentioned Herman. This whole dynamic with the Herman and Zach Britton situation of like some people, Yankees not wanting to be teammates with Herman after the assault scandal. Do you think that is going to bring like a dynamic of team chemistry?
I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Resolved.
I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think the Yankees are consciously making an effort to try and help Domingo Germán in whatever way he needs. I think he's consciously making an effort to try and be better. And frankly, if a guy like Zach Britton, still, I understand where Zach Britton's coming from completely. And in case you're unaware, anybody who's watching, Zach Britton came out and said, you don't always get to pick who your teammates are. That's completely right. And at the same time, you also don't need to be best friends with your teammates. And that's perfectly fine. As long as you guys can, get along and contribute to a common goal of winning a World Series, of making a deep playoff run, of accomplishing all these goals the Yankees have set. That's all that matters. They don't need to be best friends. They don't need to, hang out in the clubhouse together. They need to be able to, coexist as teammates and build towards a common goal. And frankly, I think that they're going to be able to do that. I think they can put their differences aside. And I think that, like I said, I think the Yankees are progressively trying to work with Germán to right whatever issues that he had. But on a note, the issue that he did have with his girlfriend at the time, they have since gotten engaged and married. So, it's just something where I think Domingo Germán is trying to be better. And I think everybody around him is trying to work with him in that respect. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to defend his actions in any way, but I'm just saying I think that it is something that the Yankees are going to be able to get past.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I think it's time to move over to the National League. So we will start again out west. in a division that is pretty interesting with two powerhouse teams. Would one of you fellas like to start it off?
I don't know. In my mind, I look at the rotation of the Dodgers and their lineup, and I can't shake it. I think that they are just going to be dominant. I love this lineup. I love everybody they bring in. They brought in Trevor Bauer. I know Nick's very skeptical about him, but I think he has a lot of potential here. I mean, Dustin May, crazy good prospect. I mean, Funky Stance throws 101, dirty curveball. He was displaying it all last postseason. Even Urias, who's their number 5 starter, showing some skill out there. And their bullpen only seems to get better. They still have Trinan, Jansen. They added Niebel and Canley. And David Price is working out of the bullpen this year, so a little lefty action, good changeup. It's just I can't do it. It's such a hard decision. There's so much hype behind this Padres team this year, and I mean for good reason. They put on a show last year, Slam Diego. They brought people to the ballpark to watch them play, and they did not disappoint. And they brought in Darvish, Snell, Musgrove. It's a hard decision. It really is. And I know they also brought in a closer, Mark Melancon. They still have Pomerantz, who was amazing out of the bullpen in the postseason last year. Other than that, I don't see too many amazing names in their bullpen, but I think they always know how to find the young guys who put on a show. And I'm sure they have some of those either rookies or first or second years in their bullpen, and they all want a chance to show like the world what they can do. So I'm going to put the Dodgers first and then the Padres. I believe so much in the Giants. I think that they have made a ton of great acquisitions. I mean, they brought in Tommy La Stella. They still have Alex Dickerson, who's a very solid player. Mike Yastrzemski gets better every year he gets to play baseball. They brought in Wilmer Flores as their designated hitter, solid hitter. They brought in Alex Wood and Gosman for their rotation. So they're starting to get more of a feel. They still have Cueto. Bullpen, literally nothing except Jake McGee. But I guess that's something. They have a solid arm.
So do you think they challenge either of these teams for a wild card spot?
No way. I think that they are third, and then, Diamondbacks and Rockies can just hang up their cleats, take the L's.
Yeah. Ramos, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think it's still going to be close. Like, I think for first and second, I do have the Dodgers, but I could see the Padres finishing within 5 of the Dodgers, like for a close second place. But I think even next year, it's going to be even closer between the two teams because the Padres would be getting Mike Clevenger back. So that's also going to be interesting. But for this year, I think it's going to go, like Rob said, like Dodgers in first, Padres second, Giants like a far third place team. Like they won't be competing with the Padres for a wild card spot, but
I'm saying at least 12 games back of them.
Oh yeah,
honestly.
at least double digit, like 10 games back. Diamondbacks 4. I mean, the only real storyline with the Diamondbacks I can think of is like, can Bumgarner play better in year 2 since he had that 6.35 ERA in year 1? And then the Rockies, they're a mess. I mean, they traded Nolan Arenado for what it seemed like nothing, and then it's going to be pretty soon where they're going to be trading Trevor Story most likely. So,
I think, frankly, if I'm going to be honest, this Dodgers team, I don't see a single weakness. I really don't. I mean, the fact that, this Padres team went out and bolstered their rotation, and, the Dodgers, you look across the diamond and they had Trevor Bauer here. And you're right. I'm not the biggest Trevor Bauer fan out there, but the fact that the fact that he's going to be the 3 guy in this rotation, frankly, takes a lot of pressure off of him in that sense. And, I don't need to add on that. The rotation is going to be fantastic in that sense. And frankly, the way the Dodgers consistently win in the regular season, the biggest question with them, let's go back how many years now? The past 5 years, it's always been, can they win in the postseason? Are they going to win the big game? Can they get it done in the World Series? That's always been the question with them. There's never been a question about their pedigree in the regular season. And frankly, I think that, yes, while the Padres made a lot of moves, and I think they're going to be a very dangerous team, I think they're going to be a very good team in the NL, I think they're still going to end up winning second. And, with the Dodgers' consistency in the regular season, I could still see the Dodgers winning this division by as much as 5 games, if I'm being completely honest. I think they're perfectly capable of that. And, I think the Padres still have questions to answer. I think there's going to be a lot more pressure added to Fernando Tatis. And, anytime he's going through a slump, his name is going to be brought up. But, I do like the additions they made to their rotation. And due to that rotation, that's why I think there's going to be no question they're going to be a wild card team at the very least. So that's kind of how I see it shaking down. If there's anything you guys want to add, we can move over to the NL Central.
So this is the most questionable division in my mind. By far. I think you have 4. Well, I'm going to count the Reds in this, but I'm probably going to have them 4th just because they lost the only firepower that they had. But yeah, I'm not counting the Pirates. They traded away Tyone. They don't really have much. They have a ton of young talent. No
disrespect to any Pirates fans out there. Tune in next season. Maybe we'll have something different to add, all right?
I mean, they got rid of Josh Bell, too,
Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the reason why people came to watch, I guess now they have a prospect third baseman who has a lot of potential. I forget what his name is. But in this division, I have the Cardinals in first. I love this team. The addition of Arenado. I can't imagine facing Goldschmidt and then Arenado. And then to lead off your order, you have Harrison Bader, one of the fastest players in the game at this point. I think they're going to be really fun to watch. They still have Flaherty, Mikolas, Wainwright. I think they brought in somebody from overseas too. I'm not sure what his name is, but they have a very solid rotation. Yeah, Reds fell off. I think Cubs are going to take second place. That's where I'm going to put them. They did get Jock Peterson, and I do like their rotation. I still think it has some power in it. And, they still have Rizzo, Contreras, Baez, Bryant. They have a team they've had for the past 5 years. So it's pretty much the same thing. Still have Arrieta and Davies. So I'm going to have them second, and then Brewers third. I don't know. I'll let you guys go with that one.
Yeah, I think in the Central, I really like the Cardinals as well. I'm a huge Jack Flaherty guy. You guys will hear me talk about him more a little later. But when it comes to the rest of the teams in this division, I just don't see anybody who blows me away as being like that team. I frankly think whoever wins this division is making the playoffs, and that's going to be it. I don't think there's going to be a wild card team coming out of here. So frankly, I think it's going to be the Cardinals. I love the way their roster is constructed, like you brought up, Rob. I love their pitching staff. I think it's deep, and I think that they've got a lot of guys who can, have a lot of upside compared to how they've performed in the past, last year's shortened season. You brought up Mikolas. Carlos Martinez, I believe, is still there as well. So there's a lot of pieces I like here on this Cardinals team. I like the Cubs. I think that the Brewers could finish ahead of them at this point. I've kind of been going back and forth on that. But, yeah, I also do think that the Reds are going to drop off a little bit. Ramos, anything to add?
Yeah, I think I have the Cardinals first out in the division. Then I got the I have the Brewers in second, and like the reason why I have the Brewers in second is because I have the Cubs third, and I just think like Javier Baez struggling at the plate last year, and he just didn't look that good. And but yeah, like the Cubs still have like Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant stuff, but I think they're gonna be third, and they're gonna be around like the 500-ish level. And then fourth, the Reds losing Bauer to the Dodgers was a huge blow for them. And then I have the Pirates fifth, who will most likely, obviously, will probably be the worst team in baseball.
Yeah.
I think we all pretty much see eye to eye there for the most part. So that being said, we'll move on to our last division to preview, and that would be the NL East. I'll start it off. I think without any question, this is the absolute best division in baseball, and something that I think could be a problem. I brought up how I don't see a wild card team coming out of the Central, but then when I look at all these teams here, and I automatically think like, yes, there's going to be obviously two teams that come out of the NL East. How could there not be? And then there comes the possibility. So many good teams that you're going to keep playing these guys over and over again. If they beat up on each other, it may come down to the division winner, and then all of these teams got wins and got lost against each other so much that nobody, can contend for a wild card with a team like the Padres, who, outside of the Dodgers, don't really have that much competition. So that's the only concern that I would have with the NL East. That being said, I think that this is the Braves division to win. I think that they are still leagues above. I don't want to say leagues above, but I think that they are still a level above the rest of the competition. Their rotation, underrated as heck. I mean, when you look up and down, they brought in Charlie Morton. Yes, Rob, I did say underrated as heck. They brought in Charlie Morton. Max Fried had a great year last year. Ian Anderson had a great year last year. You're getting Max Soroka back from injury. Who knows if he can come back or not? There's a lot to like about this rotation. They had four guys who I believe had sub 1.2 whips in their bullpen as well, which is a stat I love for bullpen pitchers. So there's a lot that I like about this team. Ronald Acuna Jr., one of the MVP favorites. So I have them winning. And then I think it's kind of a toss-up from there on out as who you have as the wild card team or second place team, if you want to look at it that way.
I still think you're sleeping on the Mets here, man. That's just straight up disrespectful.
It's disrespectful. Bob,
Yeah.
They finished last in this division last year. Don't tell me I'm sleeping on the Mets. Don't get me wrong.
You are, man.
They've made good acquisitions. Listen, man, they still have questions in there. They still have questions in their rotation. They still have questions in their bullpen. This Braves team is legit. They're legit World Series threats. I'm not saying that the Mets, can't put it all together, but I still have questions with the Mets. We could get into it if you want.
Hey, I'm fine with that, man. Okay, so Mets bring in James McCann, fills a huge hole. Wilson Ramos is not a catcher that you should have on a team that you want to be a contender. All right. And then go over to first base. You got Pete Alonso, extremely solid. He's, maybe 260, but he'll give you 40 plus home runs. And that is more than enough. You get most likely over 100 RBIs with that. I've seen so much potential out of Jeff McNeil and JD Davis. It's insane. I think these are going to be, 310 hitters. They can hit home runs. They can steal. They have speed. And then you add in Francisco Lindor. Come on. This guy's been raking in the offseason. I can't. It's so hard. And then they have Dom Smith coming up. He was a extremely highly rated prospect. He hasn't gotten as many at bats as he deserves, but now he's finally going to get them this season. And it is a question mark, but I think there's high potential for him to pop off. You have Conforto, he's been there forever, and he's always putting in solid seasons. And then Nimmo, he's an amazing leadoff batter. Watching him, a 300 hitter, just if you can't, all these guys have so much potential. There's going to be runs scored. There is questions with their rotation though, which, I'll address. So of course you have DeGrom, best pitcher in baseball, right? And then Carrasco's coming. He has an injury right now, so I'm not really sure when he's going to be back. You have Stroman. They have Walker. Syndergaard is going to come back. You have David Peterson. And they've just been building up this bullpen over the years. I know Seth Lugo, I think he has an injury. He's going to be out for a couple weeks. They added Trevor May. Last season they added Betances. Edwin Diaz, everybody said he had a bad season, but he was top 5 in relief in closing pitchers in WAR. So I see too much potential.
Are you picking them to win the division?
I am picking the Mets to win the division. Yes.
Wow. All right. Hey, it's your decision to pick them. And
hey, I'm putting Braves second.
I'm not questioning that. And you perfectly have the right to do it. But for me, the rotation just doesn't sit right. There's still so many question marks. Carlos Carrasco has barely pitched in spring training that they brought in. Marcus Stroman has missed a year. David Peterson, is very inexperienced. David Peterson's his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, David Peterson. Last year was his first year in the MLB, so there's still so many question marks. I know they brought in Taijuan Walker, but those question marks don't sit well with me to the point where I'm going to say, hey, this team is out here. They're going to come and they're going to be, take this division from the Braves. I don't see that happening. And if I'm going to be completely honest with you, there's another team in this division that I could see finishing second, and that's the Washington Nationals. And I think I would pick them to finish second because they made some key additions here. I know that they didn't have a great season last year, but when you look at this rotation, if their rotation, three-headed monster of Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin, can get back to past form and have a good year, that rotation is going to be a huge difference. And I love their lineup. Their lineup is just as potent, maybe not just as potent as the Mets, but it's potent enough to contend with them if they potentially have better pitching. So that's kind of where I lie. I think, hey, you can pick the Mets to win the division. I have no problem with that. That's completely your choice. But this is just where I sit on why I see there's just too many question marks for me with the Mets to say, hey, they're going to go and become the best team in the MLB here. They're going to go and dethrone the Braves as the best team in the NL East.
The Nationals just brought in a bunch of washed up players. They brought in Josh Harrison, Starlin Castro, Schwarber, and John Lester.
Now, first off, John Lester is going to be their 4 pitcher, so I'm not concerned about that. I believe Castro's been there. You could claim Castro's washed up. He's still going to be a quality player for them. I'm not.
He's going to be good defensively. I don't trust him with the bat.
I'm not coming in here saying he's going to put up incredible numbers or anything like that. But they also brought in Josh Bell, who's a very high quality first baseman. And the rest of their lineup, you look at their outfield. They got Victor Robles, Juan Soto, who's potentially an MVP candidate. So we could argue back and forth about their quality of their lineup. But at the end of the day, I think that this is a team that is getting a little bit slept on. And with the strength of their rotation, the 3 guys I mentioned, outside of Lester, I think it's still very strong. They also brought in Brad Hand, who's going to be their closer as well. So this is kind of where I see things standing for the Nationals team.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for that brief pause. We unfortunately experienced a technical difficulty, so we had to stop and restart a little bit. Rob, unfortunately, is not able to join us for the remainder of the show, but Ramos will take you through for the duration with myself as well. So where we left off, Ramos, why don't you talk to us about the NL East, your feelings on the division?
So with my opinion about the NL East, I think the Atlanta Braves are the favorite. They have Ronald Acuna, one of the best hitters in baseball. Their starting rotation is very underrated, in my opinion. And they also have Freddie Freeman, who's a very good player outright. Second place and probably taking a wild card spot, I have the New York Mets. I feel like they were very slept on. And they won the offseason. Actually, I don't think they're slept on, but they won the offseason. They got a new owner, Steve Cohen, who finally spent some money, brought in Francisco Lindor, James McCann, and Carlos Carrasco. And I just think they have a very underrated team. Specifically Jeff McNeil and Dom Smith. I think they're underrated. And third place, I have the Washington Nationals. They brought in Josh Bell, like you mentioned earlier. Fourth, I have the Phillies. And then fifth, I have the Marlins. I just don't think that they were successful. I think it was just COVID, even though and like the Marlins were affected the most by COVID, and they just got hot at the right time. But I don't think that's going to be a continued thing.
Yeah, and I mean, before the pause, Rob and I were talking back and forth about the division and the Mets and all that. Like I don't want it to seem like I'm taking anything away from the Mets, and I think it's fantastic for them that Steve Cohen is the new owner, and bringing in Francisco Lindor, arguably a top 10 player in the game today. That was a great acquisition, but I still have my doubts. I like what I see from the Nationals. I like the way their rotation set up. So that was kind of just the way I'm leaning. I do expect the wild card team to come out of this division, even though I think these teams are going to beat up on each other. So that being said, we'll move on to the next portion of the show today, and that would be our preseason predictions, or start of the season predictions, I guess you could say, on the Cy Young Award winners and the MVP for both of the leagues. So Ramos, if you want to kick it off, and then I'll follow up behind Joe.
So we're starting with the Cy Young for both leagues first?
Yeah, let's start with the Cy Young.
All right, so from the American League, got my guy, Garrett Cole, second best pitcher in baseball. I think he can get it done. He looked dominant last year. He looked dominant in spring training. I think just like he's going to be – he could have like at least 13 wins. I think like his ERA could be under a 2, or like maybe like somewhere in like the mid 2s. Like I think he's just going to have a great year. For the National League, there's a few guys I considered, but I'm probably going to say Jacob deGrom. I think he's going to get his third Cy Young. A big knock on Jacob deGrom is even though he'll always put up the low ERA, it's just like he doesn't get any wins, and a part of it's from the poor run support. But I think with the addition of Francisco Lindor and Jeff McNeil taking a huge stride in his game, I think the Mets will get the run support that they needed.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a Yankees fan. I went a different direction just because, I didn't want to sound biased with my Cy Young for Garrett Cole. But I like how you said, like, he had a good season last year. People beat up on him, like saying his stats weren't good, all this stuff that, he gave up too many home runs. And yes, 14 home runs in I think he had like 10 starts. It's not great. It's not great. But, and we recognize that. But at the same time, he also pitched to a sub-3 ERA. I believe it was right around 2.8, I believe. So, there's a lot to be excited about with Garrett Cole, and I like your pick as a Yankees fan as well. For me in the AL, I decided to go with Lucas Giolito. He had a good season last year in the shortened 60-game stretch. I'm a fan of him. I think he's coming into his own as a pitcher in this league. You can look at all these advanced metrics. You can look at, you can take a deep dive on last year's stats, but, last year was only 60 games. And at the end of the day, I like where Lucas Giolito is at as a pitcher. I like that he's on a good team. I think that the burden is going to be on him to be the guy in that rotation for the Chicago White Sox. And I think he's ready for that, and I think it's going to lead to a potential Cy Young season. So that's why I'm picking him. As for my NL Cy Young Award winner, I'm going with just one of my favorite pitchers in baseball, and that's Jack Flaherty. I like his skill set. He's got a wide array of pitches. He's playing for a Cardinals team that I think is going to be really good. And, this is a guy who he came in as a good prospect. He had a good season, these past couple of years since he broke into the MLB. And I think he's right at that point where he's about to break into that upper echelon of pitchers in the MLB, that top 10, top 5 pitchers in the MLB. I think he's right on that cusp. I think he can do it this year. And that's why I'm going to pick him to be a Cy Young winner, because if he can break into that top 10, I think he can also compete for the Cy Young. I'll go over and I'll do my MVPs now for each league, since you started first with the Cy Young. So in the American League, straight up, you were a little bit of a Yankees boy with Garrett Cole, good reason. I'm going to be a little bit of a Yankees boy here. I'm taking my man DJ LeMahieu, plus 3,300 odds to win the MVP at the start of the season. I'll take him. The man's a hitting machine. Great player for the Yankees. Just got re-signed to that big extension. He'll be my MVP pick. And as for the NL, I'm taking one of the best players in baseball, Ronald Acuna Jr., playing for a great Braves team, has had a great career to this point so far in his time in the MLB. And I look for him to have a big season, potential MVP caliber season. So he is my NL MVP.
Both solid choices, especially the DJ LeMahieu pick, best second baseman in baseball.
I agree with that.
But for the AL MVP, I probably have it's a safe pick, not as fun or entertaining, but Mike Trout. I mean, he's one of the best players in base. He's probably the best player in baseball. He's always been top 5. Like he had a down year last year, but it's a down year for Mike Trout. Like that year
right.
for Mike Trout is like still probably the best year for most players like now for their careers. Like they want to reach that. So it's just like with that pure talent. And I know, like I mentioned, and I know like with the MVP, like they try to give it to someone that had an impact on the team. But it's like if they can give Cy Young awards to when Jacob deGrom was under 500, you can give MVP to Mike Trout if the Angels are third in their division.
Yeah, and I mean, when you talk about just the epitome of consistency, yet at such a high performance level, Mike Trout is definitely a safe bet for the award.
Mm-hmm. And then for my NL MVP, I got Mookie Betts. I mean, he was amazing in Boston. Thank God we don't have to play him as much anymore. He goes to the Dodgers, brings them to. I mean, he was obviously had a great surrounding cast, but he truly helped them. He's an amazing fielder, amazing hitter. He's apparently a good clubhouse guy, but that shouldn't factor your MVP voting. But I think he's going to be. I think he's the MVP. I mean, Acuna too is an honorable mention. Juan Soto, like Fernando Tatis, like there's so many stars to choose from. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be. Fuck my bad. It's going to be
Mookie Betts.
Yeah, Mookie Betts. Sorry, I just zoned out there.
It's all good. So that being said, last portion of the broadcast, World Series, preseason prediction. Brian, who you got in that last 7-game series of the season come October, come November?
So for the World Series, I got the Los Angeles Dodgers going back-to-back against the Yankees in 6. As a Yankee fan, it's not the result I hope for, but after years of choking in the postseason, not even getting to the World Series, I think the Yankees have to win the American League. I would obviously love for them to win the World Series, but as good as the Yankees roster is, there's a lot of what ifs in their starting pitching, and if those what ifs are like huge hits, then I think we could beat the Dodgers. It's just I don't see any flaw in the Dodgers game, honestly. So it's like almost like David versus Goliath, but the Yankees aren't David. Just the Dodgers are extreme Goliaths.
It's an interesting way to put it. I also have the Yankees in my World Series, and I do think that they are the best team in the American League right now. Though, things can change. I think the Rays are getting slept on a little bit, but they're going to figure things out. The White Sox are obviously looking good right now, and the Athletics are always there. The Twins are going to be a threat as well. I have the Yankees coming out of the American League. And in the NL, I have the Atlanta Braves. I'm talking about how high I am on them. I love their rotation. I love their bullpen. Their lineup is potent as anybody. They've got all the tools to be a good team. And I really do think at the end of the day, it comes down to that rotation because they've already got 3 great pitchers in Fried, Ian Anderson, and Charlie Morton, who they just brought in. And if Mike Soroka can come back from his injury, anything like he was prior to that injury, that's going to be a dangerous rotation of 4 pitchers come playoff time. And I have them going to the World Series, playing the Yankees. But of course, I can't do it like you did, Brian. I've got my Yankees winning the World Series this year, 2021 champs, and that's how I see things unfolding and hoping that things unfold. So that being said, any final thoughts before we wrap things up here?
I mean, I'm just looking forward to the baseball season. I mean, this is going to be a true 162 game season, I think, or whatever, like close to a full season. Hopefully, and we're gonna get like a true because like a lot of people have been saying like the last year that like the winner of the World Series had an asterisk and like Mariano Rivera even said that, but now it's gonna be hopefully no excuses. I mean, the commissioner today, Rob Manfred, just said that he wants to have full ballpark soon, so that's gonna be great for the game and just for the fans itself. So, and like
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the season as well. Kicking off tomorrow. Well, not kicking off, but first pitch tomorrow for all MLB teams. Yankees, our team, will be going off around 1 o'clock. So it's going to be a great slate of games. It's just great to have baseball back. And be sure for everybody listening, watching, that you continue to tune into Paz and Pals. Check out our Instagram. Check out our WordPress. Check out all of the stuff. We're going to have tons of content continue to come at you, and we're going to have more podcasts throughout the MLB season. Brian will be back. Rob will be back. Hopefully no technical difficulties. So everybody who tuned in, everybody who listened, everybody who watched, thank you. And have a good day, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. Take care.
Thank you.